Do you have a hard time getting out of bed sometimes? Maybe it's just a mental motivation to get yourself out, or maybe it's because physically your body is just sore. Are you feeling anxiety and worry? There's so many things going on in your life, but you're feeling that maybe that anxiety and worry is rubbing off on the rest of the family and your children who really should be a little more carefree. Maybe you're wondering, this whole business about self-care, how am I supposed to fit it into my busy day? What does that look like? You are busy all day long, and you definitely don't have time or want to fit one more thing into your to-do list. If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're in the right place. I'm going to be speaking with a good friend of mine about when caring for yourself is not selfish, a case for self-care. My name is Diana Rolston, and I want to welcome you to Spark Homeschool Parent. Each week, I bring you strategies to ignite the spark that engages your child's learning. And I strive to provide a supportive and encouraging environment for everybody to share. And I want to welcome you, whether you're just thinking about homeschooling or have been on this journey of homeschooling with your family for many years. Welcome to all of you. And please, as you're joining in, send a quick hi, send a comment, question, whatever comes to mind. Send that in the comments through our live, or if you're listening to the recording, feel free to do that also. I love hearing from you. This conversation today will be for you if you sometimes lack that motivation to get yourself out of bed in the morning, or maybe your body is just aching and it's just physically difficult to rise and get out of bed. You're in the right place if you have lots of concerns, lots of things on your mind, a few anxieties, but you're finding that your actions and what you're saying and just that general anxiety is rubbing off on your children, and you're seeing tensions. This conversation is for you if you want to take better care of your mental, physical, social, emotional self, but you're just not sure how to fit it into your day. You just don't want to fit in one more thing, or don't feel like you have time to fit in one more thing into your schedule. This is Spark Homeschool Parent, and I want to thank you again for joining. As you come on, send a quick comment in the comments there. I'd love to hear from you. Like to see who's out there listening, either live or on the recording. Today, our conversation is when caring for yourself is not selfish, a case for self-care. The guest I have the privilege to talk with today is a wellness strategist and a certified eccentrics classical stretch instructor. She's passionate to move men and women to awaken the fact that self-care is not selfish. She's committed to encouraging sustainable movement that can literally help her students age backwards one move at a time. Married to her husband for 29 years, together they have 3 grown children. This woman is an inspiration to me and to many who know her, always celebrating the best in each person she meets. And I am honored to call her a good friend. Please help me welcome a woman who is committed to encourage, guide, and move those who desire to live their vibrant life. Welcome, Virginia.
Hello. Thank you.
Nice to have you here. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. So
me too.
Thanks for joining. I know you have lots to share, and you can particularly relate and connect with busy young moms. So
yeah, absolutely.
Happy that you can share some of your stories with us. Maybe you can start off by sharing an instance or a time in your life when you just found like you were serving others relentlessly to the point of exhaustion.
Oh, absolutely. I can relate, and I have done it. And yeah, there was a time, and it would have been when my children were young, and it was a pattern that I carried throughout my life. Really, it started at a young age, losing my mom at the age when I was 11 years old, and really not being taught how to say no or how to have a conversation, because I tend to be that personality that wants to please everybody, that wants to have a space that is calm, where everybody's happy. And, that's not reality. And I didn't learn that. So those patterns carried on into as a young married woman, and then having 3 young children.
I
And
was just going to say that when we try to create that environment, there's a lot that goes on behind that, eh? You are working so hard mentally, but also physically.
Yes, because we all have a story. You have a story. Those of your listeners watching have a story. I have a story. And we don't necessarily see each other's stories until we have a conversation. And we may not even know our own stories until I have a conversation with me.
Great point.
And yeah, so there was a time I said yes to everything because everything was awesome. It's like, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that. And what happened in the process is that the priorities of my husband and of my children and what I was called to in life really got shoved aside and put on the shelf. And that created in me a lot of anxiety, I would say, uncalm. And I was also that person who, because I do live in a world, my world is about living life with the glass half full. So that is a blessing and a curse, because everything is like, oh, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. But inside, I recognized there was stuff going on that was not calm. So I had to learn to say no. I had to understand what my priorities were, because it created ache in my body. It created in my gut, I felt anxious. And so I couldn't be the mom or the wife or the friend or the daughter that I wanted to be, that I was created to be.
So great that you say that, because you go to bed with all these ideas of what has to happen the next day, don't you? And then, of course, you don't sleep well. And then you wake up with this huge to-do list. I know you're laughing because you and I have so much in common. But I don't think this is an uncommon trait for many homeschoolers, because we want to do well and we want to strive and we want to. I think a lot of us have our glass half full. But great point, that you need to stop and have that conversation with yourself, because that's what we're talking about this month, is reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's what you were able to do. And then
Yes.
things changed.
Yes. Well, and I actually, I homeschooled my children as well for 3 years. And so our oldest son was in grade 4, 5, 6, and our middle daughter in grade 2, 3, 4. And then our youngest was 4.5 years behind. So she actually went to JKSK grade 1. And so those patterns of not knowing how to say no, really, and wanting to please, reared their, I'm going to say, ugly yet beautiful head in the midst of that desire to want to be with my children, that desire to want to see how they're learning. And it was just such a great opportunity. And I remember setting up, because I used to be, I will say, there was a time I was a total perfectionist. And so when setting up homeschooling and perfection, oh my goodness, like that just does not work.
That comes with a lot of control, wanting control, eh?
Absolutely. The best part is I had Jeff's blessing to homeschool.
Your
We
husband.
had the conversation, right? And that was so key. And I wasn't homeschooling out of fear. It's because I wanted to do it. And the first day of homeschooling, I had set up in August, I was all excited, get the curriculum. And I am not a teacher by trade by any stretch of the imagination, or I wasn't. And yet I had all these ideas. I played homeschool or school growing up in that. So set up my classroom like you would see a classroom in a school, and all of that. Anyway, we get into the classroom and whatever happens. But Jeff came home around 3:00, and the kids are in their bedroom crying. I'm on the couch crying, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, what's going to happen?"
So many of us can relate to that, because that's all we know many of us. I know homeschooling is becoming a little bit more mainstream. So people have conversations and realistic expectations, but still so many of us start like that. Schooling at home.
Yes.
And
yes. Absolutely. And even in this season, I think about actually on Facebook, a video I did a year ago, because a year ago, parents, schools people were having to homeschool again or have their children at home. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I just felt for those parents, especially when you don't choose to do that. And then it's like, how do I get to show up as a great, like a mom with energy and mental clarity and want to have fun, or whatever it is for you to want to show up in life. So those words I would say are my words, that how I wanted to show up. At that time, I wasn't showing up that way, and I had to figure out a few things. And so I was feeling for parents, and do continue to feel for parents who are doing an absolutely amazing job in considering everything that's going on. So then it's like, how do I again get to show up with that mental clarity and energy and fun and playfulness, yet create an environment for my children to thrive and to show up as them, not me controlling everything, but how to really find out what do they love to do, and having those conversations. So it really starts the night before.
Yeah, good point. And you're saying to go to bed calmly, to prepare for sleeping. And
Absolutely.
Then be prepared when you awake.
Yeah. Yes.
Because the emotions that we feel, or if there's one person in the family who is upset or anxious or angry, it ripples through everybody, especially when we're homeschooling, because we're together for so many hours. So when you're waking up anxious and unprepared, the perfectionist that you were, or the doer,
yes,
that passes on to our children. But you had some quick ideas. You had some ideas that were very short, that put you into that space of calm again. Maybe you can share some of those.
Absolutely. With as I learn more about me, so even like those self-care tips, what does self-care look like for me? Because I can only make that happen for me, and I can only create what that looks like for me. So some things that I did and continue to do to this day is, the night before, I'm now up teaching movement classes and instructing, my first class 6:30 in the morning. So I'm up at 5 a.m. So what does that mean? It means for me personally, I know I need a minimum of 7 hours sleep. If I do not get that, oh my goodness, it doesn't work for me. And so you get to figure out what that is for you. So sleep. So I am in bed by 9:30. I'm lights out by 10, and then I can get up at 5. I have my phone with my alarm set for 5 a.m., but it is away from me. So I actually have to get out of bed to get it. And I will preface this with, I am a morning person. So it isn't difficult for me to get out of bed in the morning. And I thought everyone was like that. But that's not true.
No.
So, and even so the night before, again, so setting, bedtime, that's so key. What time are you going? We do it for our children, but we don't do it for ourselves necessarily, for whatever reason, variety of reasons. Have I been hydrated throughout the day? Oh my goodness, so key for so many reasons. But not to have a big glass of water just before I go to bed, right? Have it a couple of hours before, so I can eliminate that before I go to bed. Melatonin, for like a dark room, is so important for our hormones of melatonin, and having that set. Now, again, there are melatonin sprays. So I do take a melatonin spray. I have 3 little squirts under my tongue, and it is helpful for me to be able to sleep through the night. Making sure, again, the room is dark, making sure I'm comfortable, that the room is cool. There's not sounds going off. I mean, there are so many things that I have set up, but now it's just like I have to kind of think about it, because it's just what I do, and it works for me to be able to. So again, what are those? And you know what? The beautiful thing these days is there's the internet, and there are so many great tips on the internet. I didn't have that accessible when I was homeschooling my kids. It was just kind of not as much as it is today anyway. And so, yeah, having the conversations with others, but creating your own plan of what your night looks like.
So many of those that are listening will have young children and interruptions throughout the night.
Yes.
Or waking up earlier than being woken, earlier than what is ideal for you.
Absolutely. And I think about when, what is my intention for the day for the next day? What are those things that are a must? And if I have 10 things on the must list, guess what? I am going to feel like a failure at the end of the day, even though I am not. So what is the one thing that I get to accomplish the next day? So if I do have interruptions, and I don't have that anymore right now because I don't have young children, but what are those in the middle of the night, if something happens and you don't get that energy the next day, you're tired, it's like, what's the one thing? And do it first, get it done. And then, but already have had a plan of if that does happen. Here's my plan A, here's my plan B, and grace. Oh my goodness.
For yourself. You were sharing we learn so many things about ourselves when we're homeschooling, but there was something that was really important to you.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Sorry, it just slipped my mind.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, when I started homeschooling, again, I had all this, so rigid in what I was doing, and I didn't include the children in the conversation of, what do you want this to look like? Like, what brings you excitement in the day, and how can I hear you, and how can I see you? And I will say I did not do that well, and I recognize that. That is so key. So key. And I remember I was probably, 2 or 3 weeks into homeschooling the first year, and I was like exhausted. I was like, oh my goodness. And I remember we did go to a homeschool group, which was so awesome at that time. And I had one of the other moms say to me, she said, I would encourage you to take an hour in the afternoon and everybody have a quiet time. Everybody go to their rooms. They can do whatever they want. If they want to nap, they can nap. If they want to read a book, if they want to play music, if whatever it is that they want to do, but something to be on their own, enjoy, and be calm. And so I did that. Now started with 15-minute increments. So it's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And, 15, then 30, then 45. And then, everybody has to figure out what works best for them. But to throw just an hour quickly at the kids, that would have been disastrous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the really neat thing is that I remember saying to them, it's like, you do not come out of your room unless you're bleeding. That was my time to take a nap.
Yeah.
That was my time to reset. and to go over just the morning. And it's like, this is how I intended to show up today. And I get to review, did I show up this way, or do I get to readjust, reset, so that I can show up how I intend to show up, to create that great space of learning, of creativity, of hearing them and seeing them.
I'm so happy you mentioned that, because that's when we are not experiencing and showing worry and tension, and we're calm, it's us that is the only person we can take care of in that way, then that's what ripples through the family. I mean, ideally, that's
and stuff happens, and that's where grace comes in, right? That is, and it's really about how do we start our mornings? I always felt if my morning started off great, like if I did my devotions in the morning, my day just seemed to go really, really well, And so again, we each get to create, what does our morning look like, as much as we get to create what does the night before look like. Mm-hmm. And so the morning, I actually, on my website, sustainablewellnessnow.ca, there is a blog, and on the blog, it's called Tips to Start Your Morning Off on the Right Foot. And so there's just 7 tips there, and it may speak to you, it may not speak to you. And I encourage you to create your morning. What does that get to look like for you? Because it will set the tone for the rest of the day.
Once again, that was a sustainablewellnessnow.ca. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put that into our chat. Mm-hmm. You had a few just quiet moments throughout the day that you created. And you had this special area that you would feel like you were retreating to. We have done the same. I have this room that I'm in right now that we moved into the house before the children were born, and we called it the quiet room. It's always been the quiet room for the 22 years that we've been here. But because we intentionally wanted to create a quiet, calm, clutter-free, I got the fire on today because it's a little chilly, but just that area. I know not everybody has a room that they can dedicate to that. And you had a small area also.
I did, yes. Yes, it was, so it was, our house at the time was like an open concept, but there was a living room at the very front that looked outside a big window, and everything else was behind it. So that room became, okay, nobody goes in there. This is, well, if you go in, it's fine to go in, but it's not cluttered with toys. It's not cluttered with papers or clothes or anything else. I could go in that, I had a couch sitting to that window, and I could just go and breathe. And when the children came, if they wanted to be with me, that was fine. And they knew they could sit up, and this was just that place. So again, setting that intention of what does this space look like? It wasn't a huge space, and yet it was a bit of, I'll call it a sanctuary, if you want to call it that, just where I could go and I felt I could breathe.
Mm-hmm. You called that a pattern interrupt.
Yes. And it could be a room. It could be, sometimes when I felt that kind of anxiety, or there was stuff happening within, somebody wasn't happy. It's like, okay, let's just stop. Let's pause and let's dance. So either I'd throw on some music and we would dance to, get it all out, get our sillies out, get our, anything out. And be able to just reset. And that is a pattern interrupt. And so whether that is to go for a little walk. And so I was thinking about, I did not do this. And I thought, I was thinking about this morning because we were having the conversation. It's like, I should have done that. Like have a big bowl or jar or something that all of the children and you have come up with different 15-minute pattern interrupts. And then somebody gets to choose a pattern interrupt. This is so everybody gets a choice, or at least their choices are in the jar, and pull it out. And it's like, okay, we're going to go for a walk around the park. We're going to go swing. We're going to dance. We are going to whatever that is.
Great idea. Yeah. So you've talked a little bit about the emotional self-care, mental self-care. Physical self-care is really important to you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So when I move, fear falls away. So I love to move and encourage others to move, because I have been stuck in my body where I am unable to move. And as I move, I just find, oh, okay, I can breathe. I'm starting to relax. I feel my body. It is so that, and that is my passion now. It is, I mean, I've always moved. I love, my favorite thing to do is to dance to 80s music. I love it. And as the children moved on and they're not at home anymore and they have their careers, it's like, okay, who am I and what do I get to create? And so that is where Sustainable Wellness Now has come from. And doing learning, I've had to go back to school and learn to become an instructor in classical stretch. And so the science behind the body of how to move it so that we can actually age backwards. And so I'm so excited to be able to have an online community where I teach now 9 classes a week of women and men coming into, and just they're feeling even better in their bodies. They're saying they come in and they're like tight. I just get them, sit down on the floor, feel your body. They're like, trying to sleep up, and it's uncomfortable, whether you've been sitting all day or whether you're just getting out of bed. And then after even just 30 minutes, they are feeling more awake because their blood is flowing to the brain, that they can feel the fascia and the connective tissue is now hydrating, and they're able to move with greater ease. So at the end of the class, I will sometimes have them sit down again on the floor, and it's just so much easier. It's kind of that pattern interrupt with our mind and body, connecting that mind and body, and just pause and let's move. So I absolutely love helping people to move with even greater ease in their body.
Beautiful. And because it's a passion of yours, you can so see that as a participant or a student of yours, or
Thank you. Yes.
And a fantastic way. I join you at 6:30 a couple times a week, and I would highly recommend that. So the best way for someone to get a hold of you, sustainablewellnessnow.ca. You're also on, well, let you tell me.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Actually, if you go to sustainablewellnessnow.ca, just as it sounds, then there is, you can connect with my private Facebook group. So I put a lot of tips. I have a weekly moments of movement in there where I will go over some moves and encourage you to move. And you can access that. It's called Private Facebook Group for Sustainable Wellness Now, but that you can access that through my website. There's a movement tracker on my website as well. And so that's really you could print it off. It's free. You print it off and you can use it with your family in the homeschooling group as well, or in your own, really, or with friends. We're going to be doing that in our own private Facebook group, encouraging people, set a goal, one goal. Again, it's one thing, because we can handle one thing. We can't 10 things. I won't even do one thing.
Yes, paralyzed.
Exactly. And so it's set a goal and let's move together. And then just tracking your water, your sleep, like just to, some people will have that on a watch or they'll have it, but this is when you're doing it with a group, it's really great actually to see it right in front of you, and to either have it on your mirror or to check it every day or check in with the group. So that is something that's on sustainablewellnessnow.ca, and absolutely can connect with me through there.
Perfect. And I love the fact that you do it in community, because when we're talking about self-care, we're talking about mental self-care, emotional self-care, social self-care, physical self-care. So doing your physical activity in a group hits so many of those, and then it helps your mental clarity, and just taking care of yourself. I had a quote on our Facebook page this week: self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. And like you've been saying, that's a decision that you make. and the preparation
Absolutely.
that you make before
Yes.
the time actually comes. Thank
Yes.
you so much for joining me. This has been really exciting. Thanks,
Well,
Virginia.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
This has been, and this is Spark Homeschool Parent. My commitment is to equip you with the skills and the mindset to navigate through this ever-changing homeschool journey that you're on. If you're looking for a community of encouragement, join us, if you haven't already, at Spark Homeschool Parent Facebook group. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Julia Mulder. We're going to be, or Julia Newcomb. Sorry, Julia. We're going to be talking about special needs. And if you have just a thought that maybe your child is behind, what do you do now? We're going to be having a conversation about that. Also, I'm really excited about an upcoming free webinar, How to Educate Joyful Children with a Spark for Learning. That is going to be on Saturday, February 12th, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be putting more information on our Facebook group about that. Thanks again, Virginia.
Thank you.
Bye.